Hello, listeners. Right, we're good. I'll edit that out.
Okay, listeners, how are we doing today? Getting off to a little slow start. This is Charles Scott, and I am the broker for Tri-State Realtor, and I'm here with
Charles Scott Jr. How you guys doing this week? As you know, we had a busy week last week. We were getting repped up for the Federal Reserve and the interest rate hikes, which we did see happen last Wednesday.
Yes.
And what we saw was what happened in June. 75 basis point increase, which is 3/4 of a point, which isn't a full percent like some people thought was going to happen. But, you know, it's good news. Some people look at it as doom and gloom. It's good news because the first-time home buyer is going to have more strength in buying a house now. It'll be less competition, less people going, 50 over, 60 over,
right.
We've seen. So, you know, it's good news in the end, definitely.
And we're seeing that already. You know, like I said last week, one of the things about housing and anything about a good deal, both sides have the benefit.
Yes.
So now things are coming back into the norm, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing for the buyers, and it's a good thing also for the sellers. So you buyers that are out there, now's not the time to get discouraged.
No.
You know what it is that people get nervous when they say, oh, the interest rates are going up, so therefore we won't be able to buy a house. Like I keep saying over and over again, when I started in real estate, interest rates were 16%.
Yes, 16%.
So, you know, and a lot of us in the industry, the mortgage people, you know, we all kid each other and say, look at years ago, the interest rates were 10%, 9%. When I bought my house, 8%, they're saying. So it's not a matter of the interest rates going higher. It's a matter of they're still low compared to what they used to be.
Yes.
And also, it's not like they went up by 2 or 3%.
Right.
So, you know, everyone was expecting, I think the last week, that they were going to go up at least by 1%. And they went up by 0.75%.
Yes, 3/4. So that means that the Federal Reserve, when they increase their interest rate, that affects the central banks. So they're increasing it by 75 basis points, 3/4 of a point. We're going to see our banks, well, people may say, what's a central bank? Your banks like Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Webster, the banks you actually walk into and do business with, those are the central banks. Federal Reserve, they can print the money. Central banks, their job is to loan the money out. So what we're going to see is now a lot of mortgage rates approaching maybe 6 or 7, which is
something like
still
that.
low,
Still low. And I even had the client call me yesterday from Florida, and he was talking about how last week his banker offered him a lower interest rate. He said, is that possible for interest rate to go down? And I said, it could be, because see, what the public does not understand is that when you're looking at mortgages, they're based on the bond market.
Yes.
And that's long term. In other words, interest rates could be lowered, even though the regular prime rate could go higher. The bond market is where they buy. It's almost like, for example, if you are shopping and you go out and you go to one of the big box stores and you buy a whole lot of goods on sale.
Yes.
And the person next to you, they don't go and buy it on sale. They go and buy it at today's prices. So those items that you have, you can actually resell them for a lower price because you bought it at a discount, because you bought enough in bulk and you bought it long term. So mortgage rates, eventually, yes, they will go up, but it also depends. It may not go up as much as people think that the interest rates will go up. But, you know, even then, enough about interest rates. If you're getting a good deal, you're still getting a good deal.
That's the thing. Some people say they don't even look at interest rate. They look at the deal. They look at the numbers. They say, well, this is the house I'm getting, this is what I'm going to do, and they go from there.
And I think one of the things that we'll talk about today is, how do you get a good deal?
Yes, how do you get a good deal?
How do you find that good deal if you're looking to buy a house? Well, one thing, let's look at it this way. If you are looking at homes, and you know you can go in the back end, a lot of times today people are savvy enough, they can go and they can see what the seller bought the house for, and they can go and look up the public records.
Yes.
So let's put two houses side by side. One house, let's say your neighbor on the left, say your neighbor on the left and your neighbor on the right are both selling their homes. Which one do you think would be the best deal? I'm going to give you a little quiz here. So the neighbor on one side, he bought his house 4 years ago. And he bought his house and he bought it high. You know, when you say high, he really has only 4 years that he's paid off into the house. So practically, he still owes just as much as what he bought the house for. So let's say he's selling his house for $300,000. Well, he might have bought it for $270,000, say, for example. Now, your other neighbor on the other side, they bought their house 20 years ago. So now their house might even not have a mortgage, it might be paid off. So now both are selling for the same price. However, you're going to get a better deal from the neighbor that owes very little mortgage.
Exactly.
He's got more room that he can sell the house and still make a profit and come out with enough money to buy another house. So when what I'm trying to say is, how do you get the best deal? Do a little research, maybe find out how much is owed on the house.
Yes. What I was also going to say to that, when you're doing research, people may say, you know, I'm looking on Zillow, it's only telling me so much information. People forget, go to a realtor. You don't have to pay a realtor per hour. Like you may have an attorney, have a retainer.
Right.
When you're a buyer, work with a realtor. Think of it as a lawyer representing you. You want that person to say, okay, what are you looking for? What are your parameters? And they can help you get that. Now, people may start calling a million realtors right now. Make sure you have a pre-approval first. That is where you start. You want to make sure you have a pre-approval before you call that realtor.
Exactly.
Definitely.
And like we explained before, there's a pre-approval and there's a pre-qualification. But before you even go out, you have to know what the parameters are. How much money you can spend. How much money can you get? Because even though the market may slow down a little bit, you still have to be able to act expediently. You have to be able to put that offer in. You can't find a house and then say, hold everything until I get back. Now you go to your mortgage company and they say, oh, you know, there's a couple of bills here you have to pay off before we can give you that letter. And then you call the phone and say, well, hold off until I pay those bills off, but don't let anything sell until I finish what I have to do. They're not going to wait for you for that.
Not.
So
Hey,
you've got to be ready.
when they give you the pre-approval, you'll see at the bottom, there's a date that pre-approval expires.
Right.
So
That's
everything
true.
is, like they say, time is money. When it comes to banks, even with real estate, everything has set times, set deadlines that must be met. And if they're not met, you have to ask for an extension or hope the bank pre-qualifies you for a new interest rate.
Exactly. Another way in which you can find a good deal, because we want to give you an idea to how can you get a jump start on everyone. You know, what I used to do is basically drive up and down the neighborhood.
Yes.
Eyeball your neighborhood. Look for the house and that maybe the grass is growing
Grass
high.
not cut.
Maybe the grass is high.
Newspapers piled up.
Newspapers are piled up, and you're saying, what's going on with that house? And you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be vacant. It doesn't have to necessarily be a foreclosure. It could be someone that basically the upkeep is just too much for them.
Yes.
Maybe they're looking to retire. Maybe it's a probate case, or whatever it may be. You know that it's not normal. You're in a nice neighborhood, and all the other houses have manicured lawns, and here this house got grass, a foot of grass in front of them. So
Exactly.
that right there, that's a telltale sign. So now you go, and maybe you call City Hall, or you look up, who owns the house. I'll guarantee you on that house, they got a very little a small mortgage on
If
that.
any at all.
If any. There's probably no mortgage on that particular house because they probably owned it for a long time. So these are some of the things that, you can look for. And then there's such a thing called list pending.
Yes.
Now, list pending, that means that there's a lawsuit pending. And you can go into public records and you can look that up and you find out who basically is in that situation. Now, what's it mean? Whenever a bank starts a foreclosure, they just don't go in and, knock you over and foreclose.
They can't do that.
They have to start with a lawsuit.
Yes.
Or at least notification that they intend
They intend.
to file a lawsuit.
Exactly.
And that's called a list pending. So that means all those properties that have the list pendings are in danger of being foreclosed. The bank is in the process of doing something. And these are, if you go to Zillow, you're talking about Zillow, that's the pre-foreclosures.
Yes, that's the section pre-foreclosures.
Yeah,
Now, some
explain
people may
that.
say, how is that a good deal? The thing is, these people are in a situation where The bank doesn't want the house. The bank wants to be in the process of selling mortgages. The last thing they want is to get the house back. And the person that's in the house, he doesn't want the house, but he wants to make some money at least, get out the deal some way. So you look at this and say, what can I do? You can go inside that, what they call a wedge deal, and see if you can get that property off his hands and either, get your own pre-qualification, get a mortgage, and, take possession of that house. And the bank doesn't get the house back. The owner gets, whether he has any equity, makes money, and you get the property. Now, the thing is, that house was going to stand on the market. It probably would have went through foreclosure if you wouldn't have stepped in. That's how you be proactive. You go through the cities, you go through the states. You may even not even travel around. I mean, Connecticut's a big state. You go to different states. Look for houses that have tall grass, or what's another method you did recently?
Well, you go around and you can look and see not only the tall grass, they can look for like the broken windows.
Yes, broken windows.
Broken windows. You also look to see maybe there's siding. Maybe some of the siding is starting to peel off.
But I was mentioning the other strategy. You go on ct.gov, the website.
Oh, yes.
And look for the court docket. See what's pendings are in the market for what's that called? The docket for the
judicial website.
Yes.
And most cities have a judicial website. In most cities now, years ago we used to have to go in the city hall, and then we'd have to go into the property room, and then go into the city clerk's office. Then they give you the big books.
The big book.
Then you got to look through the big book, because every time a property is sold or there's a lien put on a property, in the city clerk's office, the lawyers would come down and file a lien against the house. So the only way you could find out if there was a lien against the house is you had to go to City Hall, and it's all public knowledge.
Public knowledge.
So you can go into City Hall, open up the book, and look up the address of the property, or either the name of the person who owns the property, and it'll give you a whole history: when the property was purchased, who owes the money, who's on the title, if there's any liens on the property, everything. It's a whole x-ray of that property. So you can get a wealth of information. And people used to get mad and say, well, how did you find out all that information about my property? And see, it's public knowledge.
Public knowledge. People don't realize that.
Anybody could walk into City Hall and find out who owns the property, what liens are on the property, how much money you owe, what bank you and even look at the documents that you signed.
Exactly.
Copies of all the documents that you signed are right there. It's public knowledge.
Now, I was going to say, people may say that's public knowledge, but why is it? It's to protect you in the end. Imagine buying a property. You inherit the property, you buy it. You take responsibility of all that debt the other person didn't take care of. All those liens become the responsibility of the new owners. So the fact that it's public knowledge is to protect you. Before you go to buy a property, you're going to have a title search. Your attorney is going to perform a title search. They're going to order that. And what that search is going to do is going to make sure there's no debt owed on this property before it's transferred to the new owners.
Exactly. Now, to make it even easier, you no longer have to go into City Hall.
No.
Matter of fact, they don't even have the big books there anymore.
They'll sit you at a computer if you go inside City Hall. Why not do it from your home?
But it used to be you felt privileged, like you knew something that nobody else knew before, when you could go into City Hall, open up those big books and look in there and find out all the information. And people would come in with their little copiers, or now the cell phones. They allow you to take copies. Matter of fact, they not only allow you to take copies, they got a copy machine in there. They used to charge, what was it, a dime a page?
Dime a page.
So you put a dollar bill in there and you bring the book over, and you can make copies of all the pages that you want, because it's public knowledge. Or if you paid them, they charge you more money. It's like $1 a page.
Yeah, it's $1 a page.
$1 a page. And you could walk out with all the information on any property that you want. Now, it's gotten to the point of where you can go on the computer. Anybody in their home. You could be in your home. You can look up the public records of it, of all the properties, the dimensions, read the deed, make copies. And so it's so easy now.
Yes.
And you don't even have to be in that state. I used to laugh. Remember, they used to have those auctions in Florida, swampland houses. They'd come on and this house here, blah, blah, blah. They'd have the picture of the house. They'd have a picture of the city and the neighborhood. And what am I bid? And they'd be all over the United States. People would buy homes in Florida, sight unseen. And then, they send you the deed. And see, in some states, it's different. Here we're in Connecticut. You have a lawyer. The lawyer does the closing,
Yes.
and the lawyer does everything. In states, in Florida and some of these other states, they have title companies that do the closing.
Yes, that's
You
true.
don't even have to leave your house. They come, the notary comes and signs everything,
it,
presses
wet
it, gives you the
signature.
deed. You bought a house, and you don't even, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to even see the house or anything, and you could buy a house. That's why they used to have all those jokes about buying a house in Florida. You go down and it's swamp land. There's nothing but water.
Yes, very true.
So, you know, what we're saying is that there's creative ways of, even
Very
though we're
creative.
real estate agents or real estate brokers, in other words, I'm giving you today some, you know, inside information as how to get a really good deal.
Yes.
This is something that you can do yourself. You can look up the records of properties. You could even approach the owner and find out,
Yes.
you know, who the owner is. Maybe there's the owner's had a hardship and hard times. Maybe the owner plans on listing the property for sale. Maybe the owner is and you could be in a situation where you can benefit the owner. Suppose the owner down the road ends up having to go into the hospital and has got a lot of bills, and before all of that happens and they put liens on the property, the owner would like to sell the property.
Yes.
So, like I said, it's a win-win situation for everyone. But that's one way in which you can, you know, find a good deal.
And tell them it's 2022. What we've seen in the past few years is the pandemic, all the foreclosures have put on hold. There were no foreclosures. And what we're going to see now as we get into 2023, court systems, they don't move very fast. Right now, we have all the banks starting what we call list pendings. They're starting their notifications, their lawsuits with the current owner to start the process of foreclosure. So as we move into next year, you're going to see a lot more foreclosures on the docket. There's more opportunities to get a good deal.
Exactly. Now, let me really get creative and give you a way that you can make some money in real estate without even owning the property. For example, let's say you know someone who's had trouble renting out an apartment, and they rent it out and the people don't pay, and now they got to evict the people, and then they're just not good property managers, and maybe they don't live in the area, maybe they live out of town. Let's look at it. I'll give you an example. Let's say they're renting the apartment out for $1,000, and that's below market. Let's say that apartment should be rented out for, let's say, $1,500 or $1,400 a month. But the person that owns the building, they don't have the time to really fix it up. They don't have time to market it. Half the time the people aren't paying. So you can approach that person and say, look, rent the apartment to me for $1,000 a month or even $900, because I'm going to guarantee you the rent for a whole year. You know me, you know that I'm going to take care of the property. Matter of fact, I'm going to fix the property up. So it's more appealing. Maybe I'm going to fix up the kitchen, put some new linoleum down. But anyway, I'll guarantee you that you will get $900 a month for the entire year. And with one stipulation, that you give me the ability to sublet the apartment. In other words, after I fix it up, I can also rent it to someone else. But you're guaranteed to get your money from me. So therefore, no matter who rents the apartment, I'm guaranteeing you that I'm going to give you the money, no matter what, because the rent is coming from me, not from the other person. So who wins? Well, the person that has the apartment is thinking, well, hey, I'm getting guaranteed money from this person. You know, they're in business or they've got money, and I know that they're not gonna, you know, beat me. So now you rent that apartment out for $900 a month. Now you turn around, you go in, make some improvements, fix it up. Now you rent it out for $1,500 a month. You know, the owner doesn't care because he's getting what you promised him. So whatever you get, that's gravy for you. That's extra profit for you. So now you're getting $1,500 a month. You're paying him $900 a month. So with expenses and whatnot, so you're making $500 a month.
Yes.
And everybody's happy. The renter is happy. You're happy. The person that owns the building is happy because they're getting their guaranteed money. So now you have a cash flow coming in your pocket of an extra $500 a month. And you're on site, you're close by, so you can manage the property.
Exactly.
So you can go by and you could check, you can make sure that the garbage is put out, make sure the grass is cut, make sure everything is done, and the person renting the apartment is happy because you're taking care of everything. You're right there. If there's a leak or a toilet gets clogged, boom, you're right there. They don't have to call the other person and wait a week or everybody start arguing. Guess what? Now you've got one. Why can't you do that again?
That's what I was going to say.
Tell
Also,
'em.
in this day and age, I was going to say, let's say you find an apartment that's in a desirable area. Let's say it's near a university or something like that. What I see a lot of people do now is they're doing Airbnb. They're subletting with the Airbnb. Imagine you get a nice apartment near a, let's say, a college campus or something like an event, let's say amphitheater down Bridgeport. Why not rent it out $1,000 per weekend? You can sublet it, put it out there on the internet. Airbnbs are very sought after, especially near concert venues. People are coming from far away. They don't want to go to a hotel. They want a condo or a single family house they can own for the weekend. It's like the appeal of Airbnb. People have their own house. Because with Airbnbs, they come fully furnished. They have food in the refrigerator. It's like a hotel. And think about it, you live close by. Not only are you fixing up the property, you're making sure that the guests there are also, happy and they may be returned. So think about it, you're paying $900 a month for now a business that can gross you more than $2,000 on a right month. So it definitely, there's many avenues you can do in the real estate.
Not only that, the best part is you don't own it.
Yes, you don't own
You
it.
don't even have to own the apartment. You don't have to own the house. So you're giving that person money that's trying to rent it out
Yes.
and guaranteeing them. So they're actually giving you the right. Remember, the secret is you put the clause in there that you have a right
Yes,
to
this is
sublet.
written. This isn't verbal.
This is all
This is
written.
written.
This is all written, and you do guarantee that person that person will get their money.
Yes.
Maybe you could talk a little bit about the bread and breakfasts too.
Well, that's what I mean, an Airbnb. That's what Air Bed and Breakfast. Now, as far as when it comes to those, people have to remember, you're subletting it to people that are seeing it on Airbnb. Airbnb does take a commission, but in this industry of Airbnb, the prices for renting an entire single family for one weekend, you're seeing $1,500, $1,000. Usually, it's groups of people, wedding parties, bachelor parties. They want a whole house to themselves. And when it comes to that, it's a very lucrative industry when it comes to subletting. That's a whole another episode we could do.
Actually, I can talk about one of the things that I did years and years ago. And see, real estate is so that you can be extremely creative and think outside of the box. I once rented some garages. There were 6 garages. This individual had 6 garages. They needed some work. He wasn't even renting them out because the roof was leaking, and he didn't want to rent it out with the roof leaking. So I approached him and I said, I'd like to rent all 6 garages from you. Everybody in the snowstorm or in an area, they're always looking for somewhere to be able to rent out a garage.
Yes.
So I rented all 6 garages from him. I fixed the roofs. And then I rented them out. I remember it was $100 a month. So I was renting them from him for $250.
All 6.
But with the condition that I fixed them up. So now this is not a house. This is not land. It was just garages. So I fixed the garages up and I rented out each individual garage for $100 each. So now what happened was that here I have $600 a month coming in from the garages. The people are happy, and it doesn't have to necessarily be to the tenants in the building, because sometimes tenants don't have cars. You could rent it out to the person across the street.
That's
someone, it could be someone who's got a business that needs extra storage. But look at today. What is most popular? Storage container.
see a lot of storage companies.
Everybody needs space.
Everybody needs space.
So if you know someone that's got a garage, maybe the garage is not being rented, it's just sitting there, got weeds around it. Rent the garage for very little, go in and fix it up, and then you re-rent it. So
Yes.
these are creative ways for you also to build up some cash flow and some savings that you could then use if you don't even have to own a house, that maybe later on you could use that money to buy your own house. So see, there's all kinds of things. That's why by watching us here, we give you creative
we're here to help the
ideas
people.
as to what you can do with very little money.
Yes, very true. We're here to help the people, and each week we're going to have different strategies for people to, make money, find deals. Because real estate, like my father says, very versatile. and there's different avenues you can take in order to make income.
And the thing about it, again, is you don't need a lot of money
Nope,
and credit.
nope.
Maybe you're in the process of repairing your credit because your credit is not good enough for you to be able to purchase a home. Maybe you don't have that big down payment to buy a house. So do a little bit of creativeness.
Yes.
Maybe get the garage, maybe with the apartment. Maybe you even got a relative who's got an apartment that they're having trouble renting out. Become creative and make these suggestions to them. And then, in turn, with that residual money, that's money you had never thought about making, and build it up, build it up. Next thing you know, maybe you're making $3,000-4,000 a year. Within 2 or 3 years, you've got $6,000 or $10,000. Now you've got that extra money to be able to go out and buy your own home. But don't stop there just because now you own a house.
Nope, keep going.
Since now you got that, it's in the mind. Now you got the mindset. In other words, now you know how to take the property to make money for you. Property can make more money than you can with your hands.
Yes, when we saw the article the other day, the guy says his house made more money than him, and he's a $100,000 earner. Equity is going up in these properties.
Especially now
Yes.
when you're talking about now the interest rates going up, if you're nervous about interest rates going up, not being able to purchase a property, all of the tips that I just gave you in the last 15 minutes had nothing to do with interest rate.
None.
Renting a garage, subleasing an apartment that you basically are renting to someone else. What's the interest rate got to do with that? Nothing.
Exactly.
Not a thing. There was no mentions of interest. Interest rate could go up to 20%, and it would still not affect the ways that I just explained to you that you can still make money in real estate. So it has nothing to do with the interest rate. It's how you think and what you
Yes.
do and how you can put things together to be able to offer it to someone else. And everybody wins. Why?
Everybody
Because you win, the owner wins, and the person that's renting also wins.
Everybody gets what they want.
Right. The secret to life and the secret, even in real estate or in any type of businesses, provide a service, make something easier for someone, give them something that makes their life better, improve their life, and they in turn do unto others as they would do unto you.
Yeah, I was going to say, what was the other one? If you want to get everything you want, you solve other people's problems and things will come back to you.
Solve their problems.
Solve their problems.
Solve a
Yes.
person's problems, and the person will become your friend.
Exactly.
And everybody's got some problems.
That's very true. Find a solution.
Find a solution. Don't dwell on the problem.
Yeah.
Dwell on the solution.
Exactly.
So today, I hope we gave you some information that you can, dwell on or relate to someone else, or it's helpful. And until next week, God bless. Shalom.
Amen.